It's been 20 below on and off. It's been 20 below on and off this month almost everywhere in the United States. It's almost like the climate is changing. But since we're stuck here in our homes in the freezing cold till sometime in apparently late April, let's look at the coldest of the cold villains in comics. I'm Dan Umpton, and this is the Doomcast. Maybe the most obvious of cold villains, certainly the most publicly visible these days, his iteration and costume has changed over the years from comics to TV to movies to games, but it's always ice to see him. Victor Freeze uses a freeze gun and due to an accident has to stay in sub-zero temperatures himself or he can't survive. But did you know that the most sympathetic and most famous part of his origin was added almost 40 years after his creation? Nora Freeze, his ailing wife, was added by Paul Dini in the 1992 Batman animated series, which took Mr. Freeze from a joke character to a tragic and sympathetic character in awful circumstances. His motivation shifted from mere greed to funding research to cure and eventually unfreeze his wife. Leonard Snart is yet another cold rogue gone good several times over. Originally the leader of the Rogues, Snart started off a small-time crook who fell in with a gang whose heist was foiled by the Flash. Now, Snart was not so mechanically inclined, but he had heard that a thing called the cyclotron interfered with the Flash's powers. But when he stole that and tried to use it in a weapon, he discovered he'd created a gun that froze objects and people. Rebranding himself Captain Cold, and later him and his sister, the Golden Glider, were mainstays of the Flash's Rogues Gallery. But Snart isn't a thief without honor. He won't take a life unintentionally, and he has on occasion saved lives and righted several wrongs. Things that are almost heroic. The original Icicle was a classic Green Lantern villain, a scientist named Jor McKent, again studying cold technology in the form of a freeze ray. If you're noticing a pattern here, Icicle was the first, appearing in 1947. But while he opposed Alan Scott and the Justice Society of America regularly in the golden age of comics, he met his death in Crisis on Infinite Earths and is buried underneath the Hall of Justice. His son, Cameron McKent, has innate cold manipulation powers due to overexposure to his father's cold technology, permanently mutating his genes. A figure in the Injustice Society during Jeff Johns' run on the JSA, this Icicle is closest to the one that appears in Stargirl, albeit named Jordan McKent. His powers seemingly unrelated, somehow connected to Norse myth. Another solid legacy villain, Killer Frosts in DC have always been at odds with firestorms, but the most current one, Caitlin Snow, might be the most popular and well-known due to the Flash CW series. In comics, terrorists from Hive attacked an Antarctic Star Lab station, trapping scientist Caitlin Snow, who was accidentally caught inside of a coolant system, which ended up fusing with her. So far, 4 out of 4 scientists, or pseudoscientists, one of them with innate actual powers. Caitlin is unique in that she is a heat vampire. She saps thermodynamic energy from everything that's around her, including living beings. After trying to cure herself with the help of Firestorm, she did a stint with the Suicide Squad after being committed to Belle Rev, which led to Batman recruiting her for his version of the JLA. Iron Man's Rogues Gallery is not as storied as some other heroes, but Blizzard is probably one of the best-known villains, next to Whiplash and Crimson Dynamo. Anyway, it's actually 3 different people. The first Blizzard was Gregor Shapanka, who worked for Stark and was fixated on cryogenic research. Again, scientist, but was fired when he was caught stealing. He became obsessed with revenge on Tony Stark and built a cold suit that he used for multiple crimes for years, until being flippantly killed by the Iron Man from the future, Iron Man 2020, the past. So the next Blizzard was a guy named Donnie Gill, who was hired by Justin Hammer and given what was probably a suit designed by the previous original Blizzard. And he worked for Hammer for a while before joining Zemo's Thunderbolts. And after an accident, he lost his suit, got his powers back, and then discovered that he was an Inhuman with non-cold powers entirely, then went back to the Blizzard suit and is now currently working against Iron Man alongside Korvac with Christopher Cantwell's run. And there was another guy named Blizzard who was named Randy Macklin briefly, but instead of killing him or beating the shit out of him, Tony Stark hired him, I guess. Last but not least, it's Loki. Yes, Loki. No, he does have way more powers, but yes, let's not forget who Loki truly is. He's not Loki Odinson, he's Loki Laufeyson. He's from Jotunheim, and by birth he's a frost giant and a skilled magician, and while he casts all sorts of other magic, ice magic at its core comes naturally and easily to him by virtue of his birth. It also makes him as durable and almost unkillable as an Asgardian, gives him superior cold resistance, and gives him shape-shifting power to boot. But that's not why we like Loki, right? It's because he's a trickster who will offer you one hand, and then with the other, stab you in the back. Now tell me that isn't truly cold. Well, thanks everybody for watching. I appreciate you. Thank you for checking this channel out for as long as you have. This is episode 299. If you don't like and subscribe, you're a jerk. And also, you should tune in for episode number 300, where I'm going to bring you into the rest of my collection. Do a little Cribs episode. So tune in. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm Dan Umpton. This is the Doomcast.